Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. I'm Dave Neal, and this is your Rush Hour, all of your entertainment and pop culture news in one place on the Afternoon Rush. We've got Grace O'Malley going on Theo Von's podcast discussing her breakup from Plan Brie, a show she did on Barstool with Brianna Chicken Fry. Plus, Mark Zuckerberg in the news announces the end of fact-checking at Facebook. Not that that ever stopped my relatives from sharing fake news. Plus, I'm mentioned in a recent live stream as a bad guy. I guess no good deed goes unpunished. I'll share what that's all about. And Hulk Hogan booed during the WWE's debut on Netflix. Also, President-elect Donald Trump's plans to purchase Canada. Maybe a Can-Am maple syrup pipeline is in the works. Is that fake news? No one really knows. All right, all these stories and a Bachelor story coming up next on The Rush. All right, first things first, some Bachelor Nation news to get into. Now, you guys might know this. One of my favorite contestants of recent years is Kelsey Anderson. Bachelor alum Kelsey Anderson talks wedding dress shopping in her future nuptials to fiancé Joey Graziadei. He's going to cry for sure, the bride-to-be. And new face of David's Bridal tells people of fiancé Joey Graziadei's reaction to her dress. I gotta say, yeah. If I'm ever running a bridal company, I'm picking Kelsey Anderson to be the face of my bridal company. She's elegant, she's beautiful, she wears the dress well, and she's a kind person. Could anyone ask for anything more? Well, Grant is the next Bachelor. His season premieres in several weeks, and they released the women of his season today. I actually did a live stream on YouTube. You can go watch that as we had the, 25 or so women. They look like nice people. Will they be fun? I mean, you can't tell personality from a photo. That's for sure, but I'm sure they've been vetted and cast because they're just upstanding citizens. We'll have to wait and see. That season premieres in a few weeks. Although rumor on the street is it's a boring season. I'll be here to cover it. We will polish it up and shine up the shit if it is such and make it as interesting as could be. Well, speaking of as interesting as could be, Harry Jowsey, really famous for why? I guess being on a Netflix dating show. Either way, he interviewed Jen Tran, tried his best, as everyone has, to get more information out of her regarding her relationship with her dance partner. Let's see if he was successful.
Partner, this is who you're going to meet at the airport. I didn't know who he was. I had to Google him. I Googled him. Of course, the first picture that pops up is him shirtless. Those are the only photos that are on Google. For some reason. And we just hit it off. And it was fast friends from there.
Fast friends?
Fast friends.
Is that what we call it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Fast Friends, that's boyfriend material with Harry Jowsey. If you want to listen or watch to the full conversation, Jen Tran still keeping her dance partner in limbo, as it were. You see what I did there? You like that? I think, hey, look, I support it. Don't share your relationship with anybody till you walk down the aisle, right? The old Caitlin Bristow method. Go for it. Sadly, other news from One Direction. Liam Payne, a hotel worker accused of delivering drugs, surrenders to cops. As we know, Liam Payne fell to his death last month, or a couple months ago now, and there's been some prosecutions going on of different people that are complicit. Hotel guests, hotel staff that supplied him with drugs, and now the hotel worker surrenders to cops who actually delivered those drugs. So real sad out there. Real sad story, really. Nothing else to report on that right now. Speaking of sad for a different reason. Hulk Hogan, what a fall from grace. Was he ever graced? I don't know. He gets booed by fans at Netflix Raw. No Hulkamaniacs in the house. Now, I actually really like Hulk Hogan for different reasons, like my childhood. He's got fantastic stories, but he's kind of like a union busting, I don't know. He's a certain type. Anyhow, here he is. If you enjoy any haterade, here he is getting booed by a very full stadium of people. And, I don't know, is he going to turn full heel? Real American beer is the shirt he's wearing. Now, God bless his genetics because he's an old man. I mean, I don't know his exact age. How old is Hulk Hogan? Is he in his 70s at this point? Either way, he's hanging on by all means. But there he is. I mean, it's got to be tough. You know, you got to dye your hair. You're blonde and you put on your do-rag. I mean, it's got to be very tough being a grandpa who still wrestles. But either way, let's listen to what he had to say. I mean, that's a lot of booze. I don't think this was intended. They're like, soak up the moment, Hulk, and he's like, this isn't the moment I wanted to soak.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
He's like, listen here, Granny. Okay, anyway, he went into his shtick, and you love him or hate him, he's an icon, that's for sure. All right, speaking of icons, Theo Von has one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and he interviewed Grace O'Malley. Now, this is interesting if you're in like the podcast soap opera world. Grace O'Malley was on Plan Brie with Brianna Chicken Fry. They had this weird falling out, and rather than stay at Barstool, she ends up leaving Barstool and takes what I'm assuming is a much better paying gig with Call Her Daddy's Alex Cooper. Here is Grace O'Malley talking on Theo Von's This Past Weekend podcast.
We had Brianna Chicken Fry on. You guys had a podcast together.
Yes, yeah.
And it's called
Plan Brie Uncut.
Plan Brie Uncut.
Yes.
And you guys don't have it anymore.
It's no longer.
It's no longer.
Yes.
And so you guys had been friends for a long time.
Yeah, we were friends forever.
Okay.
Like, since we were like in 5th grade.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Kid friends.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Since we were little baby children.
That's sweet. That's sweet. And have you guys kept a good friendship after? I know that there's been like, I'm not trying to get into like the tumultuousness.
He knows the answer is no.
How does that stand today? Because it must be tough to like have a business with a friend.
Yeah. I've always just like in 2020, she got the job at Barstool and like had to move to New York for it. And I was taking a semester off from college. And she was like, do you want to come with me? And I was like, yeah, fuck it. Why not? And so like I DoorDashed on foot when we got there and stuff. And like she slowly but surely like was trying to get me a job at Barstool.
Oh, really? So really hustling for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
so like
awesome.
she like really like stuck her neck out for me. And like we ended up doing the podcast together after like a year of living there. And it was just so much fun. We had a blast. It was always fun doing it.
Yeah, a lot of y'all's clips are so great.
Dude, we would just shoot the shit, good banter. But, I think we're just going through a rough patch right now. And, I think one day we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But, she's doing her thing. I'm doing my thing. And, I still love her. So I'm being a politician right now.
How you feel? Now,
trying my best.
We had
so that's
Brianna
so,
Chicken
first of
Fry
all, that's so great. Good for her. She's really been very graceful. By the way, wouldn't that be great? Grace O'Malley, a podcast called Falling from Grace. I think that would be a fun podcast. Anyhow, you have great rapport with your childhood friends sometimes, if it works, if you stay together. So they've known each other for a long time. But of course, so Brianna Chicken Fry, talk about a fall from grace. No pun intended here, but she got all of this love for turning down like a $10 million NDA after she breaks up with Zach Bryan, right? She turns down this NDA so she wouldn't get silenced, and everyone's like, oh, girl power. But then the way that her relationship with Grace O'Malley ended, I guess Grace found out afterwards publicly or something. A lot of people turned full heel on Brianna Chicken Fry and now support Grace O'Malley leaving the network. So she's actually, she wasn't getting paid that much, but here she discusses how much money she kind of was getting paid at Barstool versus I'm sure she's making more now with Alex Cooper's network.
I had the option to leave and I took it.
Was it a good salary?
It was decent. It wasn't equated to.
Was it like $500,000?
No, nothing close to that. No. My buddy was making a little bit more, a whole shit ton more.
Okay.
So she says her buddy was making more. I'm guessing that's Brianna Chicken Fry. Brianna Chicken Fry was the bigger name. Brianna Chicken Fry got her the job. So it's like, look, she was probably getting paid $100,000, which you might go, Dave, $100,000. Listen, in New York City, you can barely afford a couple martinis. You got congestion pricing. You can't even go below 60th Street. It's a whole mess.
But she was doing another podcast and whatnot.
Oh, that's right. So she was bringing maybe different fans from that also.
Yeah.
Got it.
So relative.
Yeah, and also some of that stuff is as much as it like it's live and learn sometimes.
I also didn't care. I was just happy to be there.
Right.
Like I was like literally just I was stoked to just have the job.
Yeah.
So I was. At one point, I was working for free selling T-shirts, just paying for my own flights. Yeah.
Look, Theo Von gets it. We've all had jobs where we're barely getting paid or not getting paid, but you love what you do. That's the key. Do what you love, then find a way to monetize it because audiences are going to be, vibing with your authenticity. So good for her. All right. Story coming up next. Mark Zuckerberg ends fact-checking program for Meta. We'll have that next. Well, this can't be good. I mean, fact-checking was the one thing keeping society together, right? Or is it good? I don't know. Here's the report.
For fact-checking, as we've noted for the last 8 years on Facebook and Instagram. Mark Zuckerberg himself is announcing these new changes for Meta, calling the recent elections a cultural tipping point, he says, towards prioritizing free speech. He says that Meta will move away from the independent, nonpartisan fact-checking they've had in place since after the 2016 election.
All right, you know what? Let's just listen to what Mark Zuckerberg had to say. I mean, what a goofball. Like, no offense to him. If you're watching this on YouTube, he's got an oversized t-shirt on, a gold medallion, his hair's, I mean, who is this guy? This is a billionaire who should be taxed at a higher bracket than he's being taxed at. Is this guy worth buying a giant fortress in Hawaii, having a whole bunch of homes, being able to like put his finger on the scale of culture? Is this guy, are we okay with that? I guess so. I guess we all got to bow down to billionaires.
Time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram.
By the way, this is not AI. This is just the way he is.
I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
All right, so this sounds way more reasonable than just he's banning fact-checking. But look, he's got a big issue on his hands, which is they don't have the bandwidth to cover all of the crazy stuff out there. What I think is a better society than banning certain speech or fact-checking, I think the best thing you can do is try to have public service announcements on how to have critical thinking. And that applies in all directions. How to consume information, check your sources, check who it's being shared by. Do you believe this to be credible? Is it all of the story? Like, we need to teach people how to not live off of fear of a crazy headline or crazy half-truth. I mean, he's got a point. You couldn't talk about the pandemic during the height of the pandemic. You couldn't even say COVID, right? You couldn't even talk about elections or certain things without being throttled down. And I think that's not the right way to go. I think the only thing to combat bad speech is better speech. With that said, there's a lot of foreign actors out there, troll farms, astroturfing, that is using Facebook and other social media to push agendas that are not democratic, agendas that the people don't abide by. So if you're going to kind of go haywire on free speech, I say double down on making sure free speech for the individual, but not for corporations and for interest groups and lobbyists and people that are trying to push astroturfing. As we see, that's a big deal out there. So as an audience member, know who you're talking to. Don't argue with strangers online. I always say that. I try my best not to. I'll make a point here and there. I'll dip in, I'll dip out. But if you're arguing with a stranger, you're just as crazy as they are. I say that and I mean that. So limit who you talk to in the comment section and double check the news that you get and make sure you're only sharing things that you believe to be as credible as possible. All right, let's move it on from there. We got enough of that. All right, so, oh boy, here we go. We've got an update here from the Clayton Echard paternity scandal. This is a video that came out today. Exclusive, Ronn Owens and Jan Black call me. Don't assume anything yet. All right, I'm not going to assume anything. We've got a content creator named Rich Lieberman who is out here in San Francisco, and he's going to, I guess, mention my name with regard to the Bachelor Clayton paternity scandal that's going on out there. But of course, I'd be remiss to get into that without first getting into today's sponsor. And today's sponsor all week long is OneSkin. January is all about fresh starts. I know what you're thinking, Dave, you got a nice glow to you. You're 39 years old, and where's the crow's feet? Well, good lighting, but also it's the lotion I've been using. It's a great time to swap out the skincare products, weighing your skin down in favor of a regimen scientifically proven to transform your skin at the cellular level. level. Their products are powered by OS1. It is One Skin, and they are today's sponsor. OS1 is a proprietary peptide, say that twice, and it's scientifically proven to switch off the aging, dysfunctional cells that cause lines, wrinkles, and thinning skin. Oh boy, do I have thin skin. Read Reddit comments about you. You'll have thin skin too. Ready to detox your routine, improve your skin health, and look your best? Head over to oneskin.co. Use code RUSHHOUR at checkout for an exclusive 15% off your first purchase. Founded and led by an all-women team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is redefining the aging process with their proprietary OS1 peptide, the first ingredient proven to help skin look, feel, and behave like its younger self. Get 15% off with code RUSHHOUR at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code RUSHHOUR. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the show and tell them we sent you. Invest in the health and longevity of your skin with OneSkin. Your future self will thank you. All right. Well, from that to our good friend Rich Lieberman here, here's what he had to say as he's digesting the content in the Bachelor Clayton paternity scandal. Now, it's interesting because on one hand, he doesn't have a big following, but, you know, as someone who grew up with Ronn Owens, wouldn't it be nice, as someone who's been friendly with Ronn Owens, he sees Ronn Owens as his mentor, wouldn't it be nice if he could come around to the facts that Ronn Owens' daughter has lied about a whole bunch of medical stuff and put a whole bunch of men through hell? That would be nice. We would like that. Let's see if he actually got there yet. He actually spoke to Ronn Owens and Jan Black, the parents of Laura Owens, who, by the way, probably don't like me too much, although some have said Ronn Owens would probably be a fan of mine, and maybe vice versa, in a world where his daughter wasn't a little bit of a wedge issue.
Story. And the other side, I've spoke to a few people. I don't know the veracity of these folks. They have sent me documents. Again, update. Spoke to Ron, spoke to Jan Black.
Cool.
I have invited, and I'll make it open to anybody, the other side too. This guy, Dave Neal. Dave, I've heard good things, bad things. I want transparency. I'm not saying that.
I want the truth. Now listen, with all due respect, my audience size of 80,000+ on YouTube, we can't spend every extra hour going on other people's podcasts. I can bring the horse to the water, but I can't make him drink, right? So we've already done the work to provide all of the irrefutable evidence. You know, and especially for moments like this, evidence that Laura Owens lied about ovarian cancer, lied about being a black journalist, lied about being an Asian agent, a Jewish agent, lied about being an Asian doctor. Why do I say all of their ethnicities? Because she's exploited different communities in the process of trying to create victimhood for herself. Now, we've gone through the task of the $5,000 fee to get a computer forensics expert. I mean, have you ever been in a fight with somebody and you're like, I wish I could prove it? We were that way. We did prove it, and we no longer need to prove it, especially not to any new people. Although, with that said, I think Rich Lieberman has the right ideas. He's just got a little bit of a bias because he's heard from the people that go, oh, Dave's a bad guy. Dave, all because I've held their daughter accountable. Put it this way. This is to Jan Black and Ronn Owens. I wouldn't have to hold your daughter accountable if you did the right job as a parent and said enough is enough. It's like, did you just give her candy every time she asked? Where are the boundaries? She's running their lives to the point where they now have to have a GoFundMe, which, by the way, is reaching upwards of $100,000. And that's why we're having this conversation, because it's like, where is the journalistic integrity of the reporters talking about the GoFundMe, sharing it on their platforms, but not talking about the gambling addictions, not talking about all of the legal costs that the family has had to pay to like sort of prove their daughter's lies. We can fight this every step of the way with our audience. And for that, I don't really need anyone to love me or hate me. My work stands for itself. Let's go to the next part where he says, I don't think they think highly of Dave, which, by the way, I don't need any more audience in Maricopa County. We're all set. But still, with that said, even though Rich Lieberman is siding with the other side, right now, I still see him as a guy that could be shaped by the truth. I actually think that he, like most people, are objective. He doesn't want to hitch himself to a losing team. I think he will come around to the truth. I just think he's just not quite there yet. He's heard their side. But do I deem myself as credible? To be quite honest, having gone through depositions when I was in a car accident, I know this from opposing legal. They didn't want to fuck with me. I'm as credible as they come. I haven't lied once throughout this whole process with tens of thousands of people watching it, some fans of mine, some not. If I lied, it would have been exposed by now. Here's what he had to say.
I make that invitation to you also. Knowing full well, by the way, both Ron doesn't have a high opinion of Mr. Neal. Jan Black doesn't have a high opinion of these people that have said so to me. But it's well known. So that's where we're at. And
why don't they like me? I did nothing wrong. Anyway, if you guys like me, you can join the Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. Look, we don't need them. We don't need that story, but we are going to pursue the truth. As far as Rich Lieberman's concerned, Bubba, like I actually, from what I've seen, I actually enjoy hearing him talk. He's very well articulated, and he's like kind of nice and slow, quite soothing, to be quite honest. I think he could have a good career in YouTube. He's only got 681 subscribers, which means nothing. I mean, he could blow up if he just wants to tell the truth. And again, I'm not pressuring him whatsoever. He can get to that place when he gets there. Just point in a direction, do some Googling, and you'll figure it out. I said the same thing to Omar. You don't need me to tell you what the truth is. It's right in front of your face. All right, I got more content coming your way next. By the way, what a wild world we live in, where a lot of new media is out mediaing old media. And by that, I mean journalists on internet, on YouTube, are doing work that is kind of falling through the cracks in other mediums. Here's Under the Desk News. Now, we've actually talked, and I think they're going to come on the Rush Hour podcast, which would be so exciting. They have a monstrous channel. I mean, like, millions have seen their content here. And apparently, the host of Under the Desk News went on NPR and was completely discredited. I just want to play a moment of this for you guys.
This morning, I was featured on an episode of Weekend Update on NPR. And after what I tell you next, I can promise you, you will never hear me on NPR again. The topic was how influencers are impacting journalism, and it featured me and Summer Harlow from the Night School for Journalism. We taped for 30 minutes, but only 7 minutes of the interview aired. Summer was introduced by all her credentials, as she has earned them, and I was introduced as V-Spear Newsfluencer, to which I said, what is a newsfluencer? I've never heard that term. I've linked to the interview because I do want you to listen to it for yourself. Specifically, I want you to listen for me.
So I'm not going to play the interview. You can go check out the full. It's interesting, but this idea, you know, like when presidential candidates go on 2020, they interview for an hour and then they only air 20 minutes. It's like, bro, we have the time. We live in a world where there is no bandwidth issues to stop us from the full conversation. I say this to podcast content creators. Now is the time to stop editing out ums or things you think are stupid. Be yourself, be in the moment, and just be authentically who you are, and let the audience see that. And maybe Under the Desk News, maybe they had to edit her for time or whatever, but we've all done these 30-minute interviews, and seven minutes gets shit out like the ass end of the human centipede, and you're like, that's not what I said. You sliced and diced the aura of my art. So that's why it's like almost futile to go on these other shows. Well, let's take a hard left turn to the possibility, as I teased, of, I guess, the U.S. buying Canada. This is reported by Real News No Bullshit, you know, a news organization that's also on Instagram that I think they're doing a pretty good job. I also think their base is kind of like populist right, which is okay. But I think, there's still a lot of people that are not questioning fully the amount of dangerous rhetoric going on by our leaders.
You said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like. And it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada. we lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars.
Anyhow, so he goes on, and it's like, look, the Canadian, some Canadian leaders have threatened to cut off the power to several of the states in the U.S. that rely on power from Canada. Canada is extremely rich in oil. They're extremely rich in their proximity to. I mean, like, yeah, I'm just saying, they have a lot of resources up there, and I think sometimes better to see people as friends than foes. Not everybody, you know, when you only have a hammer, everything's a nail. Is that how it goes? All right. So anyway, interesting stuff. Our final clip of the day is, actually, we'll have to share some of this for tomorrow. Our final clip of the day here is a new federal rule that's supposed to remove medical debt from credit reports.
The Protection Bureau finalized a rule to remove medical debt from credit reports. The move erases an estimated $49 billion in unpaid medical bills from the credit reports of roughly 15 million Americans.
By the way, how dystopian of a hellscape we live in that you could slip on a rock and get medical debt that affects whether or not you can buy a home. What the hell is going on in our country? How about this? Rather than remove medical debt from credit reports, let's just remove medical debt. How about that? Let's just start fresh. Let's wipe it all, figure it all out, and all start fresh. You in what's supposed to be the greatest country in the world, at least the richest, or aspires to be the greatest, what might be the richest country in the world. Why is it we live in an age where you can be wiped out from something that happens to your body? I reject that premise. I think we can do better. And I think we should look at some of the other countries that go into the streets and fight for their rights. And I think we should maybe idolize them more than our rugged individualism. Have you ever tried to pull yourself up by your bootstraps with a blown out MCL injury that you can't afford to fix? It doesn't work out too well. Let's take care of each other. That's it for me. I'll be back in the morning. I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.